In this podcast episode, Mel Robbins addresses the overwhelming challenges faced by people in their 20s today. Drawing from her own experiences, extensive listener feedback, and research, Robbins unpacks why this decade can feel so confusing, isolating, and paralyzing, and offers practical guidance to help listeners navigate this turbulent time with more clarity, compassion, and confidence. Robbins begins by acknowledging a truth that many in their 20s silently endure. Feeling lost is not only common, but normal. Whether it's uncertainty about career paths, financial instability, loneliness, or the pressure to have everything figured out, these feelings are widespread. She emphasizes that this sense of being adrift is not a personal failure, but a reflection of the unique challenges this generation faces. Robbins' message is clear. If you're lying awake on a random Tuesday night, wondering if you're the only one struggling, you're not alone. One of the core reasons for this widespread confusion is what Robbins calls the Great Scattering. This concept describes the sudden and dramatic shift that happens after high school or college when friends and peers disperse into different cities, jobs, and life paths. Unlike childhood and adolescence, where social structures and shared milestones created a sense of belonging and a clear timeline, adulthood offers no such template. The familiar markers that once helped you measure your progress vanish, leaving you to navigate life on your own terms for the first time. Robbins highlights how this scattering leads to loneliness and a loss of control, as the social anchors that once provided comfort and comparison points disappear. She also points out how modern factors like hybrid work environments exacerbate this isolation, making it harder to form meaningful connections at work or socially. The result is a pervasive feeling of being off track or behind, even though these feelings stem from a natural and universal life phase. Adding to the confusion is the overwhelming abundance of choices available today. Unlike previous generations, young adults now face an almost infinite array of possibilities for careers, lifestyles, relationships, and experiences, all amplified by social media's constant stream of curated, idealized lives. Robbins explains how this flood of options leads to paralysis rather than freedom, a phenomenon supported by psychological research known as the paradox of choice. When presented with too many options, people often end up making no decision at all. Robbins contrasts her own 20s, where limited information and fewer visible options meant fewer distractions, with today's reality, where every decision feels monumental and fraught with fear of missing out. She urges listeners and their support networks, parents, siblings, friends, to replace judgment with compassion, recognizing that this paralysis is not laziness or lack of willpower, but a natural response to overwhelming possibilities. Another major source of anxiety in your 20s is the intense pressure to cram every life milestone and achievement into this single decade. Social media glamorizes constant change, adventure, and success, making stability seem boring or like failure. Robbins points out that this pressure is largely a social construct, amplified by external expectations rather than internal desires. She challenges the notion that your 20s are the only time to chase dreams, take risks, or build a meaningful life. Instead, Robbins encourages listeners to think of their 20s as just one part of a much longer journey. She shares examples from her own life and others who have pursued passions, started businesses, traveled, and reinvented themselves well beyond their 20s. The key is to create a lifelong bucket list and allow yourself the freedom to pursue your dreams on your own timeline, without the crushing weight of deadlines or comparisons. Robbins distills her advice into 3 transformative truths designed to shift how you experience this decade. First, you don't have to do it all in your 20s. Life is long, and there is no expiration date on your dreams or achievements. By expanding your vision beyond this decade, you relieve yourself of unnecessary pressure and open space for growth over time. Second, there are no wrong decisions, only decisions that teach you something. Robbins stresses that the most important skill in your 20s is learning how to make decisions, not obsessing over making the right one. She shares her own winding career path, full of jobs she hated or got fired from, as examples of how every choice, even the uncomfortable ones, contributed to her growth and clarity. The paralysis many feel comes from fearing mistakes, but Robbins encourages embracing decisions as experiments that move you forward. Third, if you feel lost, commit to a 1-month project focused on the one area of your life that feels most stuck or painful. Whether it's your job, relationships, finances, or mental health, dedicating focused effort to improving one thing creates momentum and reconnects you with your own power. Robbins emphasizes that progress doesn't require massive overhauls, but consistent small actions like showing up fully at work, reaching out to friends, budgeting, or prioritizing your health. Robbins highlights physical health as the ultimate foundation for navigating your 20s. She encourages listeners to dedicate just 30 minutes a day to moving their bodies, eating better, and sleeping well. This commitment not only improves energy and confidence, but also rewires your brain to think and act differently. Taking care of your body becomes a tangible way to prove to yourself that you matter and that you can follow through, even when everything else feels uncertain. Throughout the episode, Robbins calls on listeners and their loved ones to approach the 20s with empathy and understanding. She urges parents, siblings, and friends to stop judging and start supporting, recognizing that the challenges faced today are different and more complex than in previous generations. Offering help, sitting down together to tackle resumes, or simply listening can make a profound difference. Robbins closes with a message of belief in the potential of everyone in their 20s. She reminds listeners that feeling lost is part of the process and that with the right mindset and small, consistent actions, this decade can become a time of growth, discovery, and joy, rather than anxiety and pressure. She invites everyone to embrace their unique timeline, make decisions boldly, and start living fully today.